What's up, good folks? Bonafide Queen Bree here. Hopefully everybody is doing you. Hopefully you're doing you in the most bona fide way that you know how. Happy Sunday to you all. I wanted to create this video in response to, as a reaction or response video to some videos that I have seen, and actually I've been wanting to record a video on this topic and for a very long time now. And the topic is about inoculations, or people call it the jab. You guys all know what I'm talking about. You know, the immunizations, if you will. I've been wanting to speak on this, but I understand that this topic, and you know, when we talk about health and the well-being of our bodies, and especially when we're talking about sick people and people who may have pre-existing conditions and things that, you know, they feel as though they could not, you know, there's nothing that they could have done different because of maybe the way that they were born and things. Just to say the least, this is a very, very, very sensitive topic, and I absolutely understand that, which is one of the reasons why I've been kind of carrying out and avoiding doing a video regarding this topic of inoculations and immunizations and things. Of course, because I know people who received that jab, as we like to call it. I know many people that have, and I also understand the sensitivity and the magnitude of the confusion and chaos and the division that it has created with not only within society, our communities, and then even more saddening, a lot of us, our own families, right? And it's ridiculous when people are divided, you know, on basis of politics or whether or not you gotten inoculated. So the topic of the word inoculation means introducing a pathogen. A pathogen is a disease, if you will, in biology. A pathogen or an antibody, or should I say a pathogen or an antigen within the body. So these immunizations, a lot of times they have some type of cocktail or some type of material that is supposed to be something that is a replica or the likeness of the disease, to introduce into the body so that the body will develop and increase the antibodies to fight off that particular disease. And we understand, for the people who do their research or are into, you know, medical and scientific things, we understand that it has been shown in the past and over centuries that they use these immunizations to eradicate disease and to prevent the further spread of diseases. So with me making this video, I just want to start off by saying that, you know, this may be triggering for some people, so a trigger warning. There was a doctor who is very much learned and educated in her area of expertise, who I actually like listening to some of her videos and things, but she shared something that actually made me focus on it, and it really got me to thinking a lot. And what she shared has stood out.
Using this moment to discard any absurd, overreaching mandates that only weaken our warfighting capabilities. In this case, this includes the universal flu vaccine and the mandate behind it.
So now there is a flu outbreak on a Texas Air Force base. At least 159 U.S. airmen and trainees have the flu, and it is suspected that over 200 have the flu. It has been reported that one 25-year-old trainee has passed away. Prior to Pete Hegseth removing the mandate for the flu vaccine, almost 100% of U.S. airmen and trainees got the vaccine. After the mandate was lifted 2 months ago, that number dropped to approximately 40%, and now here we are with the flu outbreak. I'm Dr. Frida. I'm going to talk to you about exactly what the flu is and how dangerous it is. I'll tell you how it spreads. I'll tell you when you are contagious. That might surprise you. I'll talk about why the flu is a big deal. Why do we care? And very importantly, I'll answer a question that I still get from so many of my patients, and that is, can you get the flu from the flu vaccine? So the flu, or influenza, is a very contagious virus. It is spread through respiratory droplets. So if you cough or sneeze near...
Now, the thing about the whole topic of getting immunized, or the whole topic of immunizations, is that when you talk about the pros of something or how it is effective, it is people's responsibility to also share with people what the adverse effects are. It's kind of like when you go and you get a prescription and they tell you, well, we all you know what the good effects of the prescription is, or how it's going to help to heal you, but then also it should tell you the side effects and things. Now, when people go and get immunizations, the immunization might tell you what the side effects is in it. I believe sometime it does, but it never, if you ask a doctor, I believe even fast forward in 2026, if you ask a doctor who is advising you to get a cocktail of a certain immunization, if you ask them, hey, can you tell me what the contents are of that particular immunization or that particular shot, can you tell me? A lot of times they can't tell you. The last time my doctor wanted to offer immunizations for my kid, I asked the pediatrician, can you tell me what's in the cocktail, what's in that vaccine? And she couldn't tell me. And when I asked her, would you give it to your twin daughters? She said no. So of course that raised a red flag for me. But of course, when I asked the question, I already had my mind made up anyways. I already knew that, I was not going to go along with it, because it's just not something that we opt into doing. When it comes to making the choice and the decision to get immunizations, it's always smart to do your due diligence and your research, because I understand that some people have pre-existing conditions and some people are born into the world with certain unique special needs, or they may have certain health issues. So certain people need certain things. And I understand that, immunizations and these things that are created to minimize the exposure and the spread of disease. But there's a lot of data and information that has proven quite the opposite. So the doctor, she explained that there was some soldiers in the military or military personnel who actually caught the flu. And it seems as though she made the video to not only educate but encourage people to get vaccinated. Some people say that you can't get the flu by getting the flu vaccine. I actually know someone personally, my godson, who got it when he was approximately 16 to 18 months old. I'll never forget it. I was actually pregnant at this time, and after he got he was a fine bouncing baby boy, and he was running around the house and he was playing and he was doing what a toddler normally would. And after he got his flu vaccine, he could have been, like I said, between 16 to 24 months old. After he received his flu vaccine, he was no bueno. It was no good. He started to have the symptoms of a person with the flu, the fever and the temperature, the sickness, the flu, and he was suffering and he was whining and he was really going through it. So at that time I was like, I was questioning. I was like, wow, he just got his shots. And now, before, he was fine, he was up, he was active, and now he looks like he's helpless and like he's begging for help. So I'm like, that's a red flag, and that's just not good. So there are side effects, and there are things to be aware of when you're deciding to go and get yourself or your children immunized, if you will. And no, I don't have a degree in medicine. No, I am not a doctor. And this is not to tell people to do one way or another. This is a video message to share my experiences, and then my personal opinion, yes, about what I think of as it relates to the immunizations and the responsibility that we have, holding medical professionals and doctors accountable if they're going to advise you to take these cocktails, and knowing what the possible adverse effects of it is. Fast forward to 2020, they rolled out these shots and immunizations for CVD19, and it wasn't even a lot of time that they had to do research on whether it was effective or not, or even on the other hand, to a whole extreme level. What are the adverse effects of it? Because those first, as we all know, if everybody have been following and have been tracking what had happened during that time, those first couple rollouts of those CVD19 shots, if you will, there was a lot of people who right away, they either had adverse effects from it, or down the line they had adverse effects from it. And I remember coming across a story of a young girl who was about 14 years old, and her parents actually had her to get inoculated and with that particular shot, and she had her cycle was like haywire, and then she became a paraplegic. She could no longer walk. Now, that's just one of many different things. We are aware that those particular shots they cause myocarditis, and there's myocarditis and myopathy, if I'm not mistaken, in that pronunciation. So we know that it caused inflammation of the pericardium or the heart. It was causing inflammation of the heart. So yeah, it's a very sensitive topic, because a lot of people went to with the medical advice of the little devils, that I like to call them, and the medical advice of their healthcare providers, and then all of these other people that was telling people. I'll never forget, in the place where I was living, that was telling people, you get the shot, you get pot, or like you could get a pre-roll if you go and you could prove that you got the shot. And it was just a lot of craziness, and it just really seems like a total pre-planned operation during that time when I think back on it. So even during that time, people probably didn't know, but approximately about a year later, or a little bit over a year, which would have made it about 2021 to 2022, there were a lot of cases of adverse effects from those particular immunizations. And people were reporting horrible things. A lot of people saying, the inflammation of the heart, blood clots, not their mobility, and psychological issues, and just all kind of things. They began, there was different scientists, and there were different people who were actually, trying to figure out the truth about it, as people began to report the negative effects and what they had been experiencing from taking those immunizations. There were people who were doing their due diligence and doing the studies, and they were sharing a lot of information online. Some people may have been fortunate enough to get the information, and some people probably weren't. But they started to share that the mRNA, that material, it actually began to create blood clots in people's system. I saw a video so gruesome, I'll never forget it. I saw a video where there was a mortician, or it wasn't a mortician, it was a medical examiner. There were so many cases of heart attacks and people with blood clots that they were becoming overwhelmed. Morticians and medical examiners. They were showing pictures of the deceased, the descendants with blood clots in their bodies that were long inches to miles long. And I remember one mortician explaining how concerned he was. He said that it was so bad that some of the descendants that he was working on, some of the deceased, their blood clots were so bad in their body that they couldn't even push formaldehyde inside of the body to embalm it, to preserve the body. Now, if people are following, and you know what formaldehyde is, that is embalming fluid, and it is the fluid that morticians use to preserve the body for a very long time. Embalming fluid is supposed to help in preserving the descendant's body, the tissues, the bones, and the whole body for years upon years. But there was a mortician who expressed that he couldn't even embalm a lot of people because there were so many overwhelming numbers of people who were coming in that were dying from heart attacks and blood clots and pulmonary embolisms and things. And when they tried to push that fluid through their veins as a normal process of the embalming process and mortician and how they prep and prepare the body for the family, he reported that they couldn't even do it, that they actually had problems with doing that. So what does that say? If that can paint a mental picture in your mind, that's kind of extreme. But they share the information, and I'm so glad that they shared the information. Now, again, I just want to stop and take a second, and I want to, I want to apologize if I'm triggering anybody, or if this is a bit sensitive, and I understand, and that's why I kind of I refrain from making a video like this, because I know that it's a very sensitive topic, and some people, they want to believe what they want to believe, and they're going to believe what they want to believe, and that's quite all right. That's fine. But there are people who have a need to know, and there are people who actually want to know. And for the people that have a need to know and they want to know for themselves and for their friends and for their family, this information is widely accessible at this time. It wasn't back in 2020 or maybe 2021, even though I can count on one hand how many scientists and how many people that I've seen that were actually sharing it. Thank God for them. Now it's overwhelming evidence. I mean, there's politicians and there's people in Congress who's actually been talking about it. And now it's easily accessible information now. The mRNA material in the CVD19 vaccine that it replicates itself, and they talk about how it has its own intelligence and how it goes in and it does like these what I would consider robotic things, and how it manipulates the DNA and how it compromises the DNA. But then also in the video that I shared, the gentleman, he actually talked about how the material and the way that mRNA material in the immunization, the way that it is created, the substance and the elements or the contents of it is not made to break down in the body.
80% of Americans took a vaccine. 20% didn't. 20% did not take a vaccine. The vaccine was never safe enough for me to take. Messenger RNA, devised by Pfizer and Moderna, has been chemically modified to be unassailable to enzymes in the body to be broken down. The messenger RNA is found in the human heart of people who die after the vaccine. It's found in the brain. The spike protein is found everywhere in the body. 3 studies now show the spike protein is circulating in the blood for 6 to 9 months after people take the shot. This part of the virus, the lethal part of the virus in the vaccinated, it's circulating in the blood. And then they take a booster, they get more circulating in the blood. It is a killer protein. It cannot be safe. It was not safe by design. Safety trumps efficacy. We cannot tolerate false drug claims. This is in the peer-reviewed literature. This is not misinformation.
Our first witness is Dr. Peter.
So if it's saying all of these things and all of the research that is there and the things that I have come across as far as the research and the things that people are sharing, what I have gathered from that and from the information that is shared is that the material and the contents in those immunizations or shots, that particular mRNA vaccines, if you will, it does not break down, but it absolutely replicates. And if it does not break down, if the body, it naturally metabolizes, right? And a part of the metabolic process or metabolizing is to build up and to break down materials. If you introduce a foreign substance into the body, and the liver, which is the organ that helps to break down certain things, if it cannot break it down, then what does that tell us? That is pretty much storing in the body. And if it's storing in the body, then it's storing somewhere. A lot of times it stores in the liver. But these particular contents of this of the mRNA vaccine, as they call it, it doesn't break down, but it's supposed to work and do something in the body. So, some people will say in some vaccines, it does not introduce the virus or the disease into the body, which I don't believe that. Again, you have to do your own due diligence, because some will say, well, she's not a medical professional. She's not a doctor. And I'm not trying to present the information as a medical professional or as a doctor, but just a concerned person, but also a mother, a daughter, a sister, I know people who's actually opted into getting immunizations, and they continue to. Also, this video is not for me to frown upon or to try to, make people feel absolutely bad or to create further division. I would never be the one to bring information to create further division. This is for you to take the information and what I'm sharing, to do your due diligence, and then to go forward and then make a wise decision going forward. Because a lot of times people are taking advice from people and they're not doing their due diligence, or bad things are happening later on and then people don't know why. It is a horror story, and it's absolutely terrifying. Have you absolutely mortified to know that people were falling to their demise, and then fast forward current day time, it's still happening because of these vaccines that people were receiving. And then one might say, if one may wonder why I was very apprehensive and refrained from making a video on this material, even though there's a lot that I am aware of and I have been made aware of. And there's certain topics that's so touchy and so sensitive, such as this one, that it's so hard to do a video like this when you know that there's people that you absolutely dearly love who absolutely decided to do that, and for the right reasons. When it comes to self-preservation and things, when you're trying to make a decision of what is good for you and your family, people do it all the time. But in doing so, when we're making certain choices, especially about our body, as a person who I love, and love people or love good people, absolutely, if I'm going to be sharing the information, I'm sharing it for a reason, intentionally, and also encouraging people to do your due diligence, or look at certain things online. And I also understand, that's with the awareness of understanding that some people don't have the capacity, or they just don't want to know. They don't want to know the adverse effects or the alternative or all of these other bad, horrific things that people have been experiencing, but they have. And then for them to continuously be sharing these things online and on the internet till this particular day, what does that say about the immunizations? If they're going to talk about the immunizations and how they're encouraging the populace to get the immunizations. You know, there's a pros, but there's also a con to it. And if they're talking about the pros and how they're trying to prevent the spread of disease, they also need to be very clear and tell the populace what are the negative effects of me getting this immunization, or the people that I love or whomever getting these immunizations, so people are made aware. And if they are not doing clinical trials and doing their due diligence and doing what they should do in an appropriate amount of time, then that's already a red flag, right? Because again, there was many people who were advising people to get the CVD-19 immunization or shot. But they told, if you all remember, they told everyone that there was a vaccine that was available, and then they just, told people to get it right after it was made aware. Right after everyone was made aware that it was a process created and manufactured. So, we talk about diseases like the flu or like CVD-19, and then, there is the issue with whether or not getting children immunized or immunizations, whether or not it causes autism.
The CDC had known all along there was this MMR autism risk.
Joining us right now this morning is the director and co-writer of Vaxxed, Dr. Andrew Wakefield, and the film's producer, Polly Tommey. Polly also has a 20-year-old son with autism. Good morning to both of you.
Morning.
Dr. Wakefield, you are linked to this story ever since back in 1998. You put out a study that linked a connection between the MMR vaccine and autism. And so years later, you've come up and you're putting out this particular documentary because you are talking about the corruption behind the scenes at the CDC.
Yes, I've been involved in this debate for 20 years. It's one of the hottest debates in medicine. It hasn't gone away. And then suddenly, after 20 years, a CDC senior scientist, Dr. William Thompson, comes forward and says that they have known for 14 years that MMR vaccine is causally associated with autism, and they have covered it up. And so the film, it's his words, it's his opinion, it's his documents that really carry the message of this film, that there has been a huge cover-up which has put millions of American children in harm's way. And it was totally unnecessary.
Well, millions of Americans have heard about your original report, where is there a connection between the MMR vaccine and autism? I know your son, you were once upon a time pro-vaccine.
Yeah.
But then tell us a little bit about your son, Billy.
Okay, well, I was extremely pro-vaccine, as all the parents are in the same situation as I was. We took our children along to get the shots. We trusted our pediatricians. We didn't think to question.
Got to.
Quite. Well, so we did this, and for my son, he had the MMR in the morning. By the evening, he was in hospital having a huge convulsion, and we never got him back. He's 20 years old now, and he is doing the best he can, but he should be at college. He's missed his childhood, he's missed his teenage years, and the future is very bleak for people like Billy, and he's one of millions, millions worldwide.
Do you feel that it was the MMR vaccine?
Oh, I know, as his mother, it was the MMR vaccine. In fact,
because it just happened. Too much of a coincidence, if it were not.
The doctors in the hospital said he's having a reaction to the MMR vaccine, but it will be okay. Well, it wasn't okay. And for every day that the media says vaccines do not cause autism, every day that injection is going into children and damaging more and more and more babies. It has to stop.
Sure. Dr. Wakefield, I know at the Tribeca Film Festival, this was supposed to be played, but Robert De Niro decided not to. It's actually got a family member with autism. Are politics involved in this?
Undoubtedly. I mean, we have tried to convey to people that this is not in any way an anti-vaccine movie. It is reporting upon a fraud in the CDC, the nation's foremost health agency.
This is about corruption.
It's about corruption, absolutely. And Robert De Niro was put in an invidious position, I believe, by the board of Tribeca, where, having announced that the film was going to play, he then had to retract it. Repeatedly since that time, he has endorsed the film and said everybody must see this film, and that is the case. As you say out there, Fox News, we report, you decide. Please see this film, make up your own mind. Do not be persuaded by journalists who've written without ever having reviewed the film.
Sure.
in advance, saying this is an anti-vaccine movie.
Robert De Niro is just a father. Just like he's a parent of a child that's been damaged by a vaccine. He just wants to do the right thing, and he's been by our side right from the beginning on this. So
I'm going to watch it.
You need to watch it. Everyone.
Now, there has been studies that has been shown, and there's still further studies that's been shown that children who actually have gotten certain immunizations, they have been linked to autism. Now, there's a lot of people that's saying they're not linked to autism, and they're using all of this different information to say that it's actually not a thing. But again, there's a lot of information and there's a lot of accounts of, people who they got certain vaccines and it messed them up mentally. It messed up their psychological it messed up their psyche, or their mental state. They were not the same person. So, especially when you talk about, shout out to the people that I know who I care for deeply and who I love deeply, who has served. But the fact of the matter is, there is a negative aspect in that. There are very questionable suspect, and there are bad things that has happened that we can actually do our due diligence and our research as it relates to the military and these different experiments, and like the Tuskegee experiment, and there are different things that is taking place now, and it's all public and very accessible information. So I understand that people are going to make, decisions, and they're going to do what's best, what they feel is best for themselves and their family. And I think that, as far as a part of the human condition, I think that that's a natural thing. But I think that people making decisions without doing their due diligence, because there are people in the world that are in positions of power who use the fear tactics to achieve their agenda. I think that we all should be aware of that. And that's another reason why I'm making this video. There is the continuous Ebola outbreak over there in the Congo and different places in the motherland. There are so many different experiments that happens over there in the motherland, and now Cubaland, aka Africa. A lot of people, they don't really talk about that unless you frequent or you view content and communicate and connect with different communities and circles of people who I do, who are aware that there are literal intentional operations over there where so many people, so many Africans have fell to their demise from being forced to or being encouraged to receive the medical advice and the medical intervention of those from the Western world. Now, again, like I said, if people don't believe, as a matter of fact, I will encourage you. I would advise you, you don't have to believe anything that I'm saying in this video. You can do your own due diligence. That's why we all should be doing our own research. You don't have to believe anything that I say, but you can definitely check the facts, and then you could come back to this upload and you can share with me what you find. But for those of us that's already tapped in, and those of us that already knows what's going on, that want to share in the comments your thoughts and opinions about people being inoculated, and any other information that you may have to share, any resources for the community, because it's not only a very sensitive topic, but it's a very serious topic, because we're talking about our health, and we're talking about our well-being, and then the health and well-being of the people that we love and the people that are in our communities. I share with people that I wrote a song, and the song is called "We're at War." And in that song, I said, in one of the bars that I wrote, I said something along the lines, cause you behave and inoculate and see the forest for the trees. Now I ain't resonating. You love the lies of your enemy, and your slave master, what you capture later progresses into disease, is what I said. And I understand that when I create certain content, and when I you know, when I created that song. And sometimes speaking truth to power, it may, you know, be a little bit disheartening to some people. It may rub some people the wrong way. Some people may absolutely dislike it because it is contrary to their decisions and their choices. But again, it's not me, you know, doing it out of malice, but more so just wanting to, again, speak truth to power and to encourage and educate people to not only do your research, but do your due diligence. Again, you know, the lyrics kind of speak for itself. You know, I said, cause you behave and inoculate and see the forest for the trees. Now, when I say behaving, I'm saying someone is feeding you information and you're taking the information and you're not listening to your intuition, whether you have an intuition, whether you have an inner voice or inner dialogue, or if you have discernment. You know, doing our due diligence and doing our research, there's a lot of people who they're fed certain advice and told certain things and encouraged to do certain things, and they don't do their part and they don't do their due diligence. So therefore you're behaving and then you're inoculating. I'm not saying that everybody should just say, no, absolutely, we're not taking another shot or anything. What I'm saying is that people should really do their due diligence, meaning people should really take the time to do the research and figure out what is it that they are saying yes to, what is it that they are agreeing to when someone is advising them to do a certain thing. Very touchy topic, but we all also know that as it relates to this topic and the people who are involved, a lot of times it's a very, very dark and sinister plot that's going on, all of us that are tapped in. I'm not talking about people who they's like, oh, they went down the rabbit hole and they're conspiracy theorists and now they have certain levels of psychosis and they're crazy. No, we're talking about people who know really what's going on. Not only they were called, a lot of these people were called conspiracy theorists, but those same conspiracy theorists, those things that they were talking about were proven to be true. So are they conspiracy theorists or was it a real conspiracy? It was proven that it was actually conspiracies taking place. And those same people and myself were also very aware that a lot of those experiments that happen as it relates to medical and it relates to those inoculations and the immunizations, they happen over there in Alkebulan in the motherland. And they always want to first test on us, and they first want to do the trials and all of that. They want us to be their test dummies or their guinea pigs and experiments, and we also are very much aware of that too. So again, you know, if you're my loved ones or you're, you know, really anybody, I understand that this may be a very touchy topic. I'm very aware. I'm very aware that it may bring up some negative feelings in some people that took the advice and felt that it was the best choice for them, for themselves, for their family, or for friends or whatever. I hope that people don't look at this and see like I'm trying to you know, create some type of conflict or I'm hoping that it doesn't bring up feelings of resentment. And that's just me saying that out of total love, because, you know, as it relates to a lot of other things, I could just simply say, you know, if people have certain opinions, that it doesn't matter, because we all can have different opinions and we can go on about our, you know, our day-to-day lives, and hopefully we can still live in peace and harmony. But when it's related to our bodies and our health, and especially the immunizations and especially the inoculation, and then more specifically that damn mRNA material, you know, the CVD-19 and just that whole thing, a lot of us were victims, and a lot of us were very traumatized on so many different levels, not just from the level of the people who became inoculated, but you know, the people who didn't, and then just everything that's around that whole topic is just very, very sensitive even till this time. And here we are 6 to 7 years later. So hopefully, you know, whoever come across this, you guys will take the information and then do your due diligence, and then just know that I am sharing out of love, and you know, just wanted to encourage people to be aware and really sharing the information. So much peace to you guys, much love, ashe, and bona fide.